I'm the one that's bored. No, but they, I'll just say if you want to stay on the water in that place, there's people I can connect you to.
Are you telling me we're having a party there? Okay, I'm going where.
Excuse me, 2023 regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'd like to call it to order, and Secretary Chris Burford will proceed with the roll.
Please respond when I call your name. Anna Cavanato.
Present.
Christine Cronin.
Present.
Gary George. Here. Chuck Hoffman. Aaron Lair.
Present.
Tamara Mabbitt.
Present.
Cheryl Martin.
Present.
George Mendoza.
Here.
Cedric Reel.
Present.
Kelly Ryan.
Here.
Deidre Schreiber.
Present.
Brad Stevens.
Present.
Carrie Thompson.
Present.
And Maurizio Valerio.
Present.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. It's great to have a nearly full board. It's been a while since we've had as many on the board as we have now, and we are welcoming our new members, and we'll get to some introductions in a few minutes. This is the first board meeting in which the university's new president, Dr. Kelly Ryan, is able to participate in a full board meeting with us with complete presidential authority. President Ryan's term officially began on July 1st, and she has accomplished an impressive amount in a short time. Welcome, President Ryan, and I and the other trustees look forward to working with you this year. I cannot tell you how many times I hear from people, congratulations, you did a great pick, and I would like to read one of them to you. This one says, congratulations on what appears to be an excellent selection for president. And that is from Congressman Bentz. So you're right up there in the top. As many of you know, for the past year, we have had a less than full board, and we have new members. So instead of them having to introduce themselves and we introduce ourselves, you will notice that there is a little torn paper. And this dates me because I said to Pepper, and she wasn't familiar, but some of you maybe remember the old meetings where you had to put the paper behind your back and try to tear out a cow or something, you know. So it made me feel like that because I didn't have scissors. So therefore, we have rough edges. You will have a little ticket with a number on it. You'll have 3 minutes to get with the person that has the corresponding number and kind of interview them, find out their name, maybe something fun or interesting or embarrassing that they've encountered or something like that. So then you will introduce each other rather than yourself. And so you have 3 minutes to do so. So find the person that corresponds with you, please. I did not design it this way. I just put out numbers, and I happen to be number one. So only in the game, only in the game. But I did want to apologize to the folks behind me. I don't know if I combed the back of my hair, but I'm sorry that you have to have our backs to us. So, okay. We still appreciate you being here. And once in a while, I'll turn around and give you a smile, okay? Okay. All right. So Maurizio and I are starting with number one. So I would like to introduce Maurizio Valerio. He was born in
Grants Pass, the birthplace of Dutch Brothers. She now works in Morrow County. She's worked for 33 years as a county planner. She loves community and developing the people around her. And you can always find her outside hiking or snowmobiling.
Okay. Well, super fun. Deidre, I thought I knew most everything, but we have something in common. We were both varsity cheerleaders, but Deidre went All-American and got to go to Europe for it, so they didn't have such a thing back in the day, but I'm old enough to be her mother also. So, but Deidre grew up in Enterprise. She's a ranch girl, 3-time rodeo queen-ish. This is her second year on the board. Super smart college student to be on the board. I have to work hard to keep up with Deidre. And this fall she'll be starting her MBA at Eastern. Did I miss anything? Okay, great.
Well, so I have number 3, and I had a chance to visit with Kerry Thompson that I had met briefly before, and he's a new board member. He was born in Echo, went to EOU for a year, and then went in the military, and if I have it right, he was in the military for 22 years, retired, and his wife said, no, you can't stay at home. You got to go do something. So he came back to Eastern, got his degree, and then he has become our military relation or advisor. He probably can tell you more about the details of that, but he does help support the military students we have and actually goes out to the bases and helps recruit. But he's going to be a great addition to our board. Thank you.
Yeah, I got to know a little bit more about Brad Stevens. Did not know that he was a veteran, also served during the Vietnam era time, so that's pretty neat to find out. Grew up and went to college back east, went to college at Harvard, was an orthopedic surgeon, I believe. Spent some time as a lead surgeon for the Olympic team, I think the 2000 Olympics, or in the mid-90s. Yeah. So originally came out to LeGrand in 1975, and can't remember how long you were here for, but left for 8 years, and I think came back in 93 or left in 93 and came. Yeah, pretty neat information.
Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Welcome to the last meeting, but it was great.
Yeah, thank you.
I have the pleasure of course, meeting all the new board members and all the old board members. This is my first board meeting, so it's something new to me, but I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. George Mendoza. He has a great wife, and they have 4 wonderful kids. At least that's what he tells me. So 26, 24, and 21, and 13. So they're all just about out of the house, I think. So that's probably why he's really happy about that. He's been 28 years as an educator and 7 years as a superintendent at the LeGrand School District, and just loves Eastern Oregon University. He graduated from Eastern Oregon University, and so it was a pleasure meeting Mr. Mendoza. So, currently serves as vice chair too.
So I get to introduce Gary George, and I'm excited to do that. So if you didn't know, Gary George was the CEO of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Reservation, and after serving as the president of the tribes, whether it was 7 years or 8 years afterwards, for the last 28 years, he's been the CEO of Wild Horse Casino. So pretty impressive. He also has 2 children and that are attending Eastern Oregon University right now. He has one that's getting a master's in business administration and another one in business administration. He's also interested in urban and regional planning, or he has a degree, I'm sorry, in urban and regional planning from Eastern Washington University. And we're really excited to have Gary as a trustee.
I'll start us off. I have the pleasure of introducing Christine Cronin. Cronin joined our board last year. It was her first full year on our board, and I've loved serving with her and hearing her different perspectives on a variety of topics. I did learn some things about her today. I learned that she grew up in Burns, that she's also lived here in John Day for the last 40 years. So something must be good in the air here. She has 4 kids that have actually graduated from Eastern Oregon University, and she was the center director in John Day for EOU for 23 years. When I think of the fact that that's how old I am, and that's been my whole life, 23 years is a long time of servitude for Eastern Oregon University, and I appreciate her commitment there. She did recently visit Italy this last summer, and her favorite part there was the food. She says the food was fantastic.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, that was really why I went. And I do have to make a correction. I wish it were true, but my children graduated from Grant Union. I don't have an EOU graduate except for my niece, and she is definitely my favorite niece. So anyway, my pleasure to introduce Cedric Riel. He's just been a fantastic member of our board. It's no surprise. He served as a student trustee when he was an EOU student, and before that he was on the leadership cabinet. He was a director of finance as a student at EOU. So it's a natural progression, and someday Cedric will be sitting where I am, having spent 40 years supporting EOU. But he's been on the board actually for 3 years, so you're my senior, and in that respect, I'm newer than you, so I'm going to take that. But he's a great representative. He works for Lamb Weston up in Tri-Cities, and we had the opportunity to tour Lamb Weston at our board retreat last year, and it was obvious that Cedric is one of our prize graduates and one of their prize employees. So glad to meet you, or glad to introduce you, Cedric.
Well, I have the great pleasure of introducing our new president, Dr. Kelly Ryan. I didn't ask her where she grew up. Maybe she can tell us that later. But she very recently moved to La Grande from Kentucky, from the Louisville area. So she and her husband are spending some time, with that little time that she has, to look around and get settled and explore the territories around here. As we spoke, it sounds like that we have quite a few things in common. We both like water, and we both like the outdoors and hiking. And then she also sings. She's an impromptu singer, so we might hear her sing during the board meeting. Anyway, Kelly, we are so pleased to have you here, and we wish you very much success.
Anna Cavanato, a professor of chemistry, also Italian-born. And you took some of the things I were going to say, so I'm going to have to come up with some others. But one of the things I did want to mention is that Anna is a very renowned professor of chemistry. She serves on the American Chemist Society. Did I say that right? She serves in one of their roles, and that's extremely esteemed, and I wanted to share with you just in my experience in the academic world. I've also run into people who know her outside of Eastern Oregon, including a program review she conducted in Colorado, and they just sung her praises to the sky. I mean, it was, we're incredibly lucky to have a professor like her, let alone a trustee. I don't know how many of you know this, but Anna is a fiddler, and recently attended a camp where she really engaged in fiddling with a group of others. And I was also going to mention the water, because it's just, we both kind of relax and feel kind of, just ourselves when we're near, bodies of water.
Well, I'll go first because we didn't talk about you much, but I'll just do a little flashback in history. This was actually this is really funny because of all the board members, the trustees to put me with. This one's fun for me. So Chuck had the esteemed pleasure of living next to me for 16 years in Baker City as I was growing up. So he has 2 kids, one of which babysat me. And his son was a year ahead of me in school. Alumni of EOU in more ways than one, including as a child, lived in EOU, or lived in LeGrand near EOU, went back for a few years. And they call people career politicians. I would classify Chuck as a career board member. I just don't think it pays as well, Dr. Hoffman. So board member on a number of different, in a number of different services, OTEC, Leo, he was, I think you were on the Baker City Council for a while, mayor, just I think obviously in service to people is a real high calling for Dr. Hoffman, who also of course has a number of service opportunities within the medical field. And he and my father had quite the duck-beaver rivalry, if I remember correctly. It's things of lore at this point, but I think there was some sort of a little token that gets passed around for the winner of the big game in November. So that was just completely off the cuff there since we...
And I have it. And your father does not. It was actually worse because her mother is also a beaver, so is this old duck. It was 2-1, but I don't know how it happened. We usually won the football game. So anyway, yeah, Erin is completing her 2nd year as superintendent of District 5J schools in LeGrand, where she has already won accolades across the state for her performance. She and her husband live on a cherry orchard in Cove, Oregon, where I have picked cherries since I was just a little boy. My mom was a teacher, and one of her co-teachers at Imbler owned the ranch, and then a very close friend of mine and his wife owned the ranch, and now Erin does. And the funny thing is, I was talking to Erin, and I said, well, I have a friend. She told me she lived on a cherry orchard, and I said, well, I have a friend who has a cherry orchard in Cove, but he couldn't find anybody to sell it to. Nobody wanted it. And, well, somebody did. So anyway, yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with Erin again after all these years. So.
Thank you. As you can see, board, we have a really high caliber of board members, and for those of you that are new, just real quickly, we have had an amazing board with wonderful, tough discussions, tough challenges, tough decisions, but the board is so professional and respectful and collegial with each other that, is that a word? Mm-hmm. Is collegial a word? Okay, I'll use it. That it's been a true pleasure to be chair of this board, and as you saw last year, it doesn't take much for tears to come when I talk about the board. So welcome to the new members, and I'm sure we'll all fit right in. So thank you very much. Moving on, so that we do not keep our guests here, the panel. Secretary Burford, would you please proceed with some announcements?
Yes, thank you. These are essentially housekeeping announcements. Please ask everyone, please turn your cell phones on Do Not Disturb. If we have any members of the media here, if you haven't already done so, please sign the sign-in sheet behind me here. Likewise, anyone present in person who wishes to give public comment, please be sure to sign the sign-in sheet where I'm gesturing. To provide access to the public have been invited to attend in person, and this meeting is being live streamed over the internet. Speakers must use the tabletop microphones, which are the only way that people on the live stream can hear what we say. Use of the mics is also necessary for proper amplification within the room. However, if more than 4 mics are on at a time, they stop working. So you have to kind of watch that. If you brought a laptop or device, please be sure the speakers and microphone are turned off. If you're joining us, no one's joining us remotely this time. Trustees, in front of you, you'll find the meeting agenda and travel reimbursement forms. Please sign the travel form and return it to my assistant Pepper by the end of tomorrow's meeting. And the board received no written public comments for this meeting. We also did not receive requests to give oral comment by remote means. And that concludes my housekeeping amendments. I've got a little bit of an update about the board's membership. We currently have only one vacancy on the board, the position recently held by Bill Johnson. We believe we have an excellent candidate for that position who submitted application materials to the governor in March. However, the governor would like to have an actual choice of people for each position, reasonably enough, and so will not move forward with filling the vacancy when there's only one applicant. Until at least one other candidate applies for the position, that position will remain empty. So even if we had multiple candidates today, the soonest that position would be likely to be filled is after the start of next year's legislative session, probably in April. So that in the best case scenario is that position will be vacant until this board's last meeting of the academic year in May. Long before then, we will have been preparing to fill another vacancy on the board, which will begin July 1st of next year. We therefore plan to fill 2 trustee positions in the spring legislative session. That means that instead of needing one more applicant, we need probably 3 to fill the 2 positions. So that's my update on our board membership. That concludes my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our president is up to make a few remarks for us, please.
Thank you. I'm just so delighted to be here for my very first Board of Trustees meeting as president. And I'm so pleased that we'll have time to get to know each other as well as conduct business in the coming days. The other newbie trustees and I have been at it since this morning to get up to speed on board practices and procedures. And of course, we're grateful to Chris Burford for his efforts in educating us. I'm also grateful to each of you for the time you've spent with me. I'm trying to make my way around the area to visit with each of you, as it's an opportunity to learn about your priorities and aspirations for EOU, as well as to get better integrated into the community and knowledgeable about the region. I appreciate everyone's warmth, hospitality, and patience as I learn about EOU and Eastern Oregon. Though I've only been here a short while, I've learned a lot, and the executive team and I are honing in on priorities. I've been meeting with stakeholders across the university, one at a time, to learn about their hopes and aspirations too. The campus portrait survey was especially useful in gleaning information about how people perceive the institution and their dreams for a brighter future. I'm grateful to Reza Jalian for working with me to create and sift through the responses. I'll be sharing some of those responses with the university community in my next letter from the president. In addition to learning about the community, we have developed some priorities this year. And the 4 main priorities we're going to work on include, first and foremost, student success. There's a great need to understand retention as part of the overall enrollment wellness of this institution. And there's been so much great work underway. I'm shooting adrenaline into the Moonshot for Equity initiatives by asking for completion by December in 2 areas and in May for 2 others they've been working on. That work builds upon the successes of previous work through the Title IX grants by Dean Nate Lowe. And this work has recently been given to AVC Beanie Moses Mosebed, among other projects that have been completed. We have to work on reducing our transfers out of this campus. And to that end, I've asked VP Colleen Dunn-Cascio to work on 2 projects. First, developing a mentoring system for our incoming fall class with a longer-term focus on peer-to-peer support. And the second, building out a campus vitality team to better engage and retain our on-campus students with lively events and opportunities. Of course, I hope to be critical to both projects, particularly in helping to make partnerships to advance campus life. The second major area that we're focusing on is our enrollment value proposition for on-campus students. Working with VPs Tim Sadell, Matt Seamers, and Colleen Dunn-Cascio, I've asked us to consider more deeply what are our core areas of distinction? Who do we want to be? And what do we do best? Our current plan involves engaging students and alumni who were successful, as well as, of course, working with each of you, and faculty and staff on what we should and could build to show how we were both distinct and successful in serving our community. I know VP Matt Seamers has already started working with the deans on this, as he recently sent me his notes from the last Provost Council. The third is to engage our enrollment pipeline. Working with VP Matt Seamers, we're auditing our admissions and registration pipeline to look at removing barriers, engaging best practices, and studying new market opportunities. And the fourth is, of course, budgetary sustainability. In May, the board approved a $2 million gap between revenue and expenses for this academic year. The long-term success of this university means reducing that gap as much as we can this year, while also making sure we remain strategic and agile in addressing student and community needs. I look forward to sharing more with you in the course of the next 2 days as we truly have hit the ground running. I would like to end this by giving a shout out to two folks who have been extremely generous with me in my short time at the university. First, Cheryl Martin, our board chair, has been working with me before I even formally assumed the role, with weekly calls and Zooms, as well as ad hoc ones at the end of the day when we text each other. I know it's time consuming, and I have really appreciated your support. Second, I want to point out the amazing, truly amazing support from Kimberly Newman. She's the executive assistant to the president. Her guidance is almost too numerous to actually enumerate. And she was working for 3 presidents for a little while there. She's helped me sledge through acronym land, provided documentation every day on the decisions, policies, and processes of the university, and she has kept me well informed as well as in line with the culture of the university. I could not imagine having better or more informed support. I'm terribly grateful to Tom Insko for hiring her. So thank you so much, Kimberly and Cheryl, and thanks to all of you as well.
Thank you, President Ryan. I just have a couple of remarks. One, first of all, Pepper said that if you are driving to Sylvie's Valley, let her know, and she'll add that to your mileage form that you turn into her. So that was just a little heads up there. Another item is, we talked earlier about Pendleton Roundup, and because we have royalty on our board, we thought it would be especially fun for anybody that wanted to attend the Pendleton Roundup. So what we need to know right now is if you would like to plan on going to the Pendleton Roundup as a board member, some of you get to live there. Anyway, please let us know so that we can set aside tickets. So very important that you let us know by the end of this board meeting if you would like to attend the Pendleton Roundup. And we will be watching Deidre come running in and jumping over the fence on her horse. So it should be especially fun this year to attend and get to see Deidre as part of that court. So
that would be the Friday one, right?
yes, that will be the Friday. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know the number. What the 15th? Friday is the 15th. 15th of September. So please let us know that way. I'm excited. I love the Pendleton Roundup, but to see our board member on the court is especially special. Oh, just a little side note. I do have 9 family members that have graduated from Eastern Oregon University. And as I visit with people, I'm always so impressed at how many of you have children, grandchildren, nieces or nephews. In this room, if you have somebody that's currently attending EOU, please raise your hand. I think it's just fun to see how many. Yeah, so that's pretty impressive, isn't it? And I just heard a wonderful success story on students. So that is, and let's see, just excited to begin a new academic year, excited to have new board members, really looking forward to working with the board again this year. So thank you very much. Do we have any trustee comments at this time? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, let's move forward. As Chris announced earlier in the meeting, we received requests from the public, no requests, excuse me, jumping down. We come now to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are voted on as a block without discussion. If any trustee wishes to discuss a consent agenda item, please say so, and it will be removed from the consent agenda and added to our regular agenda at some point prior to the end of this meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Trustee Reel moved and Trustee Cavanado seconded the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. We now move to our first presentation. I would like to introduce Logan, and please forgive me, I should have gone over the names ahead of time. Is it Badgett? Badgett. Oh, French? Yeah, okay. Another Italian. Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive. I would like to introduce Logan Badgett, our moderator. He is the news director and on-air talent for the John Day branch of Elkhorn Media Group radio stations and has a 17-year career in radio. He was born and raised in Strawberry Basin of Grant County. Logan attended all of his primary schooling at Prairie City Schools. In 2011, he graduated from EOU in La Grande, enjoying both full-time and part-time academic schedules. During his time at EOU, Badgett fulfilled roles at the university's former student-driven radio station, KEOL, including station manager, program director, and show host. In addition to his work on the radio, Logan is a freelance voiceover artist and voice actor and enjoys many outdoor activities along with spending time with his family. Thank you, Logan, for moderating our panelists today. Will you please introduce the rest of our panelists?
Well, thank you, Cheryl, for that wonderful introduction. And what an honor it is to be here today, and an honor to introduce our panel. This is the Grant County Economic and Educational Needs Panel. To my left, we have Ashley Armicardi here. Now, Ashley, you're the EOU John Day Regional Advisor, working out at EOU's John Day Regional Center here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. First, I apologize for not getting a detailed bio. I was the Malheur County Fair 4-H Horse Show Superintendent last week and had 2 little girls showing, so I had my hands full, and I did not get that submitted on time. So yes, I am also a EOU alumni, graduating with a biology degree and a chemistry minor in 2004. And so I work as the EOU Regional Advisor for the ROI Division. And as of November, I'm the early college regional specialist for this area, doing admissions work, doing outreach into the high schools to help our high school students see that college is an opportunity that's available to them, and helping them see that that college-going culture is there for them. So,
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ashley. And up next here, we have Lisa Galbraith. Now, Lisa's worked with the Malheur National Forest for 20 years. Oh, pardon me, Lisa. Well, let's just jump around here since we've gone down to the end of the table. Well, Lisa, you started out as a firefighter. Now you're in admin and budgeting. Most recently became the customer services staff officer. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, thank you. We recently filled a new position, the one that I'm in right now, and it encompasses all things internal and externally customer service related. So it's budget, admin, special uses, recreation, partnerships, and public affairs. And so just really looking forward to this opportunity to have a better alignment and partnership with EOU, and to start by starting off on this panel. I lived in the area, like Logan said, been working for the Forest Service for 20 years, and my husband and I have 2 kids that we're frantically trying to get ready for the fair this week for fair, and we live on a ranch that my husband manages. So nice, happy to be here.
Excellent, and thank you again. I can turn my podium a little better. I can see our panel. Sutton George, would you introduce yourself a little bit? First of all, Sutton, I know you're the Human Resources and Office Manager here for Prairie Wood Products. And gosh, the mill operating right by my house in Prairie City, it's great to hear that breath of life being breathed into the community every morning at about 5 o'clock a.m. or so. so yeah, Sutton, tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement here.
My name is Sutton George. I am what you would call the administrative executive for Prairie Wood. I'm the only office person. We have 56 local employees that we reopened last year in July. That's a huge success for our community. Prairie City, other than the school and city hall, there was not a lot of job opportunities within that community. So that's something that we're very proud of, the forestry industry, getting that bucket up and going, and local loggers back here instead of over on the west side is super important to us. So I do not come from a human resource background. I actually was a medical assistant here at our clinic for 6 years. So I am what you would call green in the forestry industry, but I have had decades of knowledge within my mentors that has been instilled in me and really grown me, and I'm thankful for that.
Excellent. Thank you, Sutton. And Var Rigby with our Blue Mountain Hospital District. Var, you're the Director of Human Resources. You've have over 20 years experience in HR, and 15 of those are in the medical field. Could you explain a little more about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So really excited to be here. I grew up in Southern Oregon, and we raised our kids in Pilot Rock, not too far away, definitely in the area. And so I spent 14, 15 years working in Pendleton. Spent a lot of time with meetings with Juju Withers there at CTUIR, and enjoyed my time there. And I've been here about 3 years working for the hospital district. So it's my first foray into nonprofit, and it's kind of a new world and exciting for me. But the hospital district here has been around a long time, weathered a lot of storms, and we keep getting new storms. So that's what makes life exciting, and I'm happy to talk through some of the challenges as well as opportunities that we see for the future.
Absolutely. Look forward to that discussion today here, Var. And lastly, we have Robert Waltenberg, our superintendent for Grant County ESD, and is on my morning show, Coffee Time, almost every month it seems like, and we have something new to talk about every time. Mr. Waltenberg, would you say a little something about yourself?
How much time do we?
A little something about yourself, please.
I'm Robert Waltenberg. I'm Grant ESD superintendent. Been here 32 years in education. I'm a first-gen college student, or college goer. You asked, collectively we have 5 degrees from Eastern between my 2 daughters and I. So we are big supporters. And so I think that, and we'll talk about this later, but I want you all to be thinking, when we talk about Eastern Oregon, when we talk about our rural regional university, we talk about relationship, and that's going to be key to everything we talk about here. So that's all I have to say. Thanks, Lord.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Robert. Okay, let's get this ball rolling, shall we? I'm really excited to talk about our economic and educational needs here. Now, if there's someone in the audience that can answer my question real fast, do we know round about the student population of Eastern Oregon University? Is it, what, around 1,500 or so, it seems like?
It's about 2,700 combined.
2,700. Wow, my numbers were way off. Okay. Well, thank you for that. And just to put some things into perspective, our entire county here, Grant County, we have about 7,100 people. And sometimes it feels like we all know each other, but we come from all corners of the spot here. And gosh, there are so many acres and space that's spread out between us. And so there are a lot of specific challenges that we have right to our region. So let's just open things up. Let's start big. What do we want? How are we going to get there? So why don't we start with Sutton? From your standpoint, what would you like to see as far as economic prosperity and education?
I think that the numbers kind of speak for itself. I did some independent research last development that came out for unemployment. Grant County had one of the highest unemployment rates in the state of Oregon. As Logan said, we are a very small county. Everybody knows everybody, it seems like, for the most part. So for me, getting that unemployment rate down, getting people working, and giving them the fundamentals that they need to be successful, to not only just have a job, but to have a career.
Absolutely. And how can we get there? I'll keep on you with this.
Trades, I think, is a huge aspect in our workforce. Last year's studies showed that 41.5 million jobs were in the trades. I think that's something that within Grant County, I don't know if I did my research correctly, and if I didn't, please correct me. I saw that EOU's certificate programs that they have, there was 2. One of them was for IT, and the other one was for trauma resource. And so I think that we have an opportunity to bridge that gap a little bit, do some apprenticeships within not only our mill, there's other mills that are looking for at least between the 3 places in Grant County, 63 people are needed to fill positions.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you looking for construction trades, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and is that what you're looking for?
Not necessarily plumbing. My main focus would be forestry trades, so machine equipment operators, CDL, electricians, millwrights, graders, and then also human resources, administrative, shipping, and logistics.
Graders are timber graders?
It would be lumber graders.
Oh, lumber graders.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move the question to VAR with our Blue Mountain Hospital District. VAR, have you found you're able to keep positions filled for the most part and easily enough there at our Blue Mountain Hospital District?
Just like everyone else, yeah. We're packed full of openings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's not anything new, but there's definitely been increased challenges that have come during the pandemic, and then what we're seeing post-pandemic in healthcare. One of the things that I think the entire nation's aware of is the stress and the kind of the shock factor of COVID, and how much of the healthcare workforce it knocked out. People just saying, this isn't for me. All of a sudden there's stress, there's uncertainty, there's fear, and that made a huge impact across the country, across the world, really. And then coming out, what we're seeing is just some hesitancy to get into healthcare, and then really not enough opportunities for those that are interested to be able to pursue the careers that they're expressing interest in. So I know that from what we're hearing from people out there that are interested in getting into programs is that those programs out there are still very tight, very tough to find entry into.
Yeah, thank you, VAR. And personally, my girlfriend, she's has some experience going to medical school, and she would like to become a surgical tech. And she was telling me that there's only a certain place, it's, I believe, in at Mount Hood Community College or something like that, where she can get her certification. Is there a quick answer there for something that we could possibly bring to this part of the region that could help with that certification?
Well, I don't know how complicated this is, so I'll just throw it out there as a wish list item. But I think it's really exciting to see schools collaborating, because oftentimes there's a program and someone knows how to do it, but they only have limited space. And so as an example, what you have done with nursing and your partnership with OHSU, that's a phenomenal opportunity and a resource value for us. We love to see that, and we'd love to see more. I know, talking to our director of nursing services, she said that years ago there was some talk about us being able to have our own kind of regional program, working together with Burns, and that I think it was Carla whoever Carla is or was, she was working, and they were working together and pretty close to coming up with a program, just needed a clinical instructor, and then there was some retirements, and nothing happened. So things like that, and I think there's many of these, like surgical tech being an example. You know, we can only take a couple surgical techs at our hospital, but the demand is out there nationwide. And I think if partnerships are able to be formed where maybe one school is holding a greater responsibility, but the others are able to dive in, and it's the world where now we can do more remote education, and we have hospitals that are willing to partner with the clinical side or the didactic. I'd love to see more partnerships there. We constantly struggle with physical therapy, with radiology and the radiology specialties, and physical therapy specialties like OC therapy or speech therapy. You know, it'd be great to see some additional resources put in and some partnerships formed.
Excellent. Thank you for your input, Var.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
and
I think you went through it, and you started to answer the questions I was going to have for you. What exact programs are you looking for? So physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, and then nursing, and then a little surgical tech. But what are your top 5? Are those the top 5?
Yeah, definitely. So when Pepper called me and said, "Hey, would you come and visit?" Those were the people that I went to immediately, because it's the openings that we just can never fill, and it's not that. Well, you know, it's hard to find people out there, even when we're doing nationwide searches, which aren't cheap. You know, when you do those, tough to find someone that understands rural. And then once you do that, then you got to worry about the housing and all of those things. So the challenges just never end. But people here that are wanting to grow and wanting to, you know, build their skills, you've already solved maybe 3/4 of those problems, and they just need an opportunity to jump in and learn.
Any other questions for Var?
I would just have one question. Have the hospitals in particular considered scholarships for sending some of your local students out and then coming back to fund, to help build those degree and those the training programs?
Yeah, I mean, we'll consider anything, really. You know, we're open to options and open to flexibility. I'd say sending people out. So right now, about 30% of our workforce uses daycare. So, you know, when you talk about sending someone out, if it's remote learning, absolutely, you know, we would do that. But the idea of having somebody go like to California for a couple of years and then come back, it's really tough for to find the right match to make that happen. But we do offer scholarships, and we do offer continuing education programs for people, including like a you know, a full partnership for a degree, for a 4-year degree. So. Yeah.
Say that did trigger a thought for me on schools do grow your own programs. Lots of other places do. Hospitals rarely do grow your own type programs, probably because I guess people leave and then they're pretty happy with that other spot. Is that the experience, or that's what you're?
Maybe in the past. I think more and more we're learning that we need to do every opportunity. So we have partnered on a CNA class. We currently do that, you know, with us providing the instructor and the facility, and then getting the curriculum through BTI in Baker City. So we're doing that. We have done CNA, kind of a partnership, and we do the clinical version, or the clinical side of lab programs. So if we can get them into a program through maybe ISU, or Wenatchee Valley has the 2-year tech program, then we'll provide the clinical. It's really, I think, growing, growing the idea of doing it. It's just, I think, more of an unknown for us at this point, where if we knew there was an opportunity and we knew someone could either guide us or sponsor us or, at least point us in the right direction, then we'd want to look at it.
And just personally, I had mentioned that I was at the clinic for 6 years. I have a certified medical assistant in the national level. I outreach those programs as much as I could remotely. I also have 3 very young children. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and my little boy turned 2 today. So packing up your entire family to, we finished our prereqs, now I'm ready to go to OHSU. How do you financially recover from that? You give up your job. You move your home. We bought a house, luckily, when interest rates were down. So starting over is something that, I still work remotely for the hospital once a month to keep my license good. That's important to me. But I made an entire career change because I couldn't educationally continue to grow without leaving Grant County.
Thank you for your comments there.
I have one quick question. I'd like to direct it to Dr. Hoffman along this same. Are there programs? I was thinking there were programs for students that come to a rural area and work in the medical field. Are there some grant programs or scholarships for that?
Yeah, so this is the world I live in, and I work closely with your hospital. You are probably familiar with Eastern Oregon CCO, and we actually provide scholarships for training and education. So I will connect you with the right people, and I mean, you know them already, but I'll send you a direct link. So yes, Cheryl.
I also wanted to mention that on the campus of Eastern Oregon University, associated with the Oregon Health Science University, there is NEOHEC, which is the Northeast Area Health Education Center, something like that. Anyway, and they are truly dedicated, so the HEC centers are around the state of Oregon, and they are dedicated to healthcare, rural healthcare. So they facilitate internships in the area. They also have some grants or scholarship programs for students, for medical and dental students that I know of. So that's something to keep in mind, that there is that opportunity as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments related, to the medical field here and directed to VAR? All right, well, let's talk about natural resources for a second here. Lisa, what do you need out there? Do you find that you're having enough people applying, and it's kind of the same everywhere else, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
Yep.
No, I would not be here if we had enough people to fill our positions.
So what are the biggest challenges that you find?
Well, so for our positions, I mean, we're a good, major employer in the area, I would say. A lot of our positions and the hiring process can be a bit cumbersome. But the areas that we mostly struggle in, because they do have positive education requirements, that can be either difficult to obtain or difficult to obtain after someone already went to school and has a degree, and they want to switch careers already in the Forest Service. And those areas would be for hydrology, botany, fisheries, and ecology. And so those are, I think, the main ones. I would be interested in hearing about how or if any partnerships could be made there. And then the other thing I think that's going to be helpful is just starting that early communication channel and partnership with Ashley to be able to try to recruit early on, and new students coming into their programs, if they're interested in a certain resource area. I can almost guarantee we will be trying to fill from that resource area at some point, within the year even, or maybe 2 years, and trying to get them, involved earlier on and in maybe some of our internship programs. And some of that is just about communication and job sharing and, some one-on-one help to ensure that they qualify and that they can make it on our list when we do try to fill.
Thank you. Let's talk about education for a second. From an educational standpoint, Mr. Waltenberg, are our students getting what they need to go into the trades, to go into further education, and how is all of that looking?
So I would hope that two trustees have quite eloquently informed the board about the challenges we're seeing right now. Ms. George said, we know, everybody knows everybody, I think was the statement. Everybody knows everybody. And that's the problem. Because what we end up doing is VAR picks off my good people. I pick off her good people. Oh, wait, you got a Forest Service person that moved in that teaches math? Well, hell, send them my way. So we just globally, and I know I'm not saying anything that you guys don't realize, because I'm sure that LeGrand and Baker and the bigger places have the same problems. We just don't have the warm bodies. But what we have seen is we've seen partnerships with Dr. Newman, with Dr. Seamers, with the Wren, where we are creating these teacher pathways for our high school kids to get exposed, to provide. The Wren is providing scholarship, and this is our Wren. When I say our Wren, not you guys. You guys aren't cool. But our Wren is providing scholarship for classified employees to move forward, working with the four-year elementary program that Dr. Newman has going on. We used to, and I'm going to reference used to could, when Chris was back, in the early days, Eastern was nation-renowned for its online program. Is that a fair statement, Trustee? And we've kind of fallen behind on that. Now we're picking it up from an education standpoint, from our needs in the schools. We're picking that up. We're starting to see more and more. But VAR would have just salivated over the nursing program that took place in my basement at the ESD. We were turning out nurses left and right. You know, granted, they had to go to clinicals in Baker, or they went to Burns, but we were turning out nurses, and then that stopped. Economics driver. But we're seeing, you can be very proud of the work your university is doing in the education field for us. Now, that being said, pie in the sky, I would love to see a PT program. I would love to see an OT program. I would love to see SLPs graduating from a specialized program at Eastern, where they aren't walking out of Portland State and Portland Public and Beaverton are saying, hey, here's, $100,000 a year, you're just coming out. Stay here with us. It's hard to pull those kids, those young professionals over here. But I think if we were able to push our kids into those programs on a regional level, I think we would see them stay. And so those are the pieces that we struggle with, is right there. And I understand, I get you can't spin up an SLP program overnight, because the 20 students you're going to graduate a year, there's a maximum point in Eastern Oregon when we saturate the market. But if we're good enough, they're going to be coming here, getting the education. The best ones will stay. The rest of them will find jobs. So,
Thank you, Robert. Let's talk about some of your students for a moment. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, sorry. I should have.
All these little things always trigger thoughts. When we were younger, like the loan forgiveness programs were a big deal, and you could go to a certain rural area, a certain rural town, high migrant, high this, and a doctor could come in, or a nurse could come in, or an OT-PT. And I don't hear like these loan forgiveness programs much anymore. I do hear like fee remissions and having partial scholarships. And is that something that's popular still or not popular? That this might be for the whole table and for you guys. I mean,
well, so I could say from from our searching when we're trying to find providers. In fact, right now we have 3 providers, three doctors that are leaving us. 2 of them are a couple and are going on a mission for a few years, and one of them found love in Montana, and it's hard to it's hard to argue with that. So we're searching right now, and really, yes, loan forgiveness is still a big deal. It's just that there's so many organizations vying after a very small number of candidates that these doctors, even they're in their second, third year of primary education, they're already starting to get calls and starting to get people looking for commitments. So it's very tough, very competitive.
So Robert was talking about a program that existed. It was a grant-funded program, and it was a partnership between EOU and OHSU, where students were able to stay in their community and receive the clinical. So they would do the first 2 years at EOU with EOU classes, and then they actually could still stay in their community and receive the clinical coursework online and do a lot of the clinicals in the local hospital, but then they also had to go away for some experiences. But it was perfect for students who had families or commitments in the community. And then that program, the grants dried up, and so that changed, and now students still have to go to campus for that program. So what I really want to say, though, is I think EOU has always been incredibly good at creating partnerships. We can deliver part of the pie, and we do a phenomenal job of partnering with other schools for example, something like we used to have quite a few students from the Forest Service. They would get a lot of their general education credits from EOU and then get some specialized credits from somewhere else. And the Forest Service was really good about granting tuition to those students. And also, an important piece, and I don't know if you still do this, but for any entity that wants to increase the educational level of their employees, they really need to be aware of granting time for the student to do those classes, and also if there's a way to assist with childcare in some way, that's another way to support that student. And that's a very difficult thing to do, but in the past when that has been done, then it greatly increases the educational level of employees. And that's one thing, speaking from an educator's standpoint, that's one thing education has done pretty well, is support with tuition employees getting increased in educational levels. And so I think that that's a place where one of the reasons that EOU has developed the reputation it has for education, because we have partners and we have school districts around the region that have partnered so well with Eastern, and then the result is evident in every school district in Eastern Oregon. So, but Robert, I wanted to talk to you about the Masters in Counseling, because I know I'm also on the ESD Board of Directors, and I also know that that's a success that has happened. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So, see a need, fill a need. This is a place that, as an EOU supporter, I like that EOU is going in that direction. But for us, that immediate need, and maybe for you as well, Aaron, and you, George, we needed counselors. We absolutely had to have counselors. It's the world we live in right now. This is where Eastern has been outflanked, because programs like Grand Canyon University or Western Governors University, those programs have come in and they're attractive, they're cheap. The quality's not what Eastern would deliver, I guarantee that, but they're fulfilling an immediate need. And so if you guys want to talk about that sometime, I would love to. But I think that we are you talking about the program that Eastern's spinning up, Chris?
Right.
Yeah, we're not participating in that right now just because it's just now coming up and we've been pushing in a direction. So, sorry.
Yeah, missed out.
So.
We have a question in the back.
Peter Dyson, Dean of College of Science, Technology, and Math Sciences. We are launching the Masters in Community Mental Health Counseling this fall, as you said. It is fully online. There's some synchronous components, but all critical observation will be arranged as close as possible to where the student resides. The vast majority of our applicants so far are from Oregon, Eastern Oregon. equity, we were conditionally awarded while they're figuring out what to do with the program that's not accredited yet. We will get accreditation as soon as we can. It's after the first cohort. But hopefully this grant will come through, and then we can also offer financial support to our Oregonians who want to go in this direction. Again, it's fully online starting this fall. The first cohort is full, but we're also admitting winter and spring cohorts. Thank you.
I would just add that we are providing $10,000 scholarships, 6 of them, to those programs for Eastern Oregon students. So those can be applied through the university right now.
Any other comments from the audience? Okay, I have a question for you, Ashley. Since you're our regional office director here, are there any roadblocks or specific challenges that your students have come to you with, and maybe some that they have in common?
Yes, I would say that we're facing lack of access to certain programs. I have very successful local students in accounting and the business administration, lots of psychology students, anthropology, sociology. Those are really successful programs that I advise in. But from my point of view, like as a Forest Service wife, those natural resources are what we're lacking. One thing I was talking with Lisa earlier, what about, we'll work together, maybe look at the interdisciplinary studies to join a minor from OSU with a minor at EOU and try and get those students what they need without having to leave Grant County. Because there is what Sutton said, people, they've gone to work, they want to stay here, they have homes. Moving on campus really isn't going to happen for those students. I recently left BMCC. I worked for them as well. So helping, getting those students in the nursing program, we can do that. EOU and BMCC, we can do the online prerequisites. So before students have to relocate, they can do that all here. But there's just those programs, you have to go get the hands-on component. And so those are the things that we struggle with. Those, we do have a wonderful biology with the ecology side, but they do need to, you can't really do a biology lab online. You really need to be on campus and learn. So those are kind of the barriers. And that's, I think, with the early college role that I'm playing. We're sitting down with students in the high school and talking about, okay, so you want to do this program. What can we do here to help you? And then when you get to college, you have less to do. So we're focusing on writing. We're focusing on some good gen eds. But these are the things we're starting back in high school, trying to get them thinking about it and getting prepared. Because if they're thinking now and they get that education done early and then they come back to their communities, it's going to be a lot easier than, say, someone who's in their 30s that decides for a career change and then they're landlocked, essentially, and can't make that change. So,
George.
Some of what you said made me start thinking about just the eat, sleep, and breathe part of EOU. And I'll just say, do the kids in this area or this region eat, sleep, and breathe EOU, or do they think about going somewhere else? And then the other thing is, how much does a community eat, sleep, and breathe EOU as their regional institution, or do they think about other universities? That, to me, is for the panel.
Well, I can speak, so I was lucky enough to get Chris's position when she retired. However, they cut the position down to 1/4 time. And so when you have a full advising caseload, you can't really get in the community like you need to, and then COVID. So this position that I started in November, the goal is to get out there in the schools, help those students. And so, yeah, I think we're rebuilding in that aspect. But yeah, the not having a full-time person here, trying to multitask, is definitely hard to get the name out there. So, if it was a full-time person that, could be on, say, the, attending different board meetings and different community activities, get more visibility. And I think that's, with this new position, I'm have a priority of being in the schools, working with the staff, working with the students, and getting out there. And this position serves Harney and Malheur County as well, so I'm trying to get, and there's an early college regional specialist for your region as well, Janet Camp. So we're trying, and we're getting out there, but it is rebuilding after COVID and after, just getting more people, more bodies in the area.
What is your perception of EOU's current presence in Grant County? That, right?
Correct, yeah, just trying to get out there. We go on coffee time occasionally, working, doing, we just recently did a newspaper interviews, but we just need to keep rebuilding, making sure we're out in the community. We did a sponsorship for the county fairs. We have banners there. But there are students that I meet with every day in the high schools that have different degree plans. So one thing that I do hear a lot from high school students is engineering, which we don't have, and marine biology. There's a lot of students that, and that's that's not us. So, and the goal of this grant, though, is to create a college-going culture. And so if EOU is not the right fit, we're still here to help them, and they're still getting EOU credits along the way. And then hopefully with the alignments and transferability, will help them be successful and then come back to this community.
Thank you. Yes, Var.
I'm just going to add a little personal note, George, to your question. I really do echo Ashley, and I think that what's needed more is more exposure. So my oldest son is attending EOU right now. Well, he's on a break, but coming back, and he's had a great experience, and it's actually surprising to us how great it's been for him, and I think that people just need to hear. So while we were visiting him one day, he took us over to see the climbing wall that he plays on, and there was a track meet going on. And so I popped my head in there and started watching, and it was fun. I mean, there was a lot of action going on in there, and I think, if we could get some interaction where high school students or junior high, or, there's some opportunities for them to see some of that excitement, then you start to get the talk that goes around, and then when people do get there, they get a great experience.
Thank you. Now, I have a quick question for Lisa. When I was going to EOU, I was going, I believe it's called the STEP program through the Forest Service, Student Employment, and I would clear trail in the summertime. It was wonderful. It was fun. I would go back to La Grande during the year, and that really it helped pay for a lot of my college and my way of living. And do you find that you have a lot of your summertime workforce doing that?
Well, actually, temp hiring is a whole different scenario. We actually don't have the ability to hire quite that easily through the STEP program anymore.
Really?
And so, right, so that's been, and it was just a paper, turn in your resume, fill out the paperwork. It was a super easy process, really easy for, high school or college age young adults to be able to get their foot in the door and get started. And we don't quite have that the same. And so right now it is an online process like our permanent positions, and for a lower level GS3 or GS4, which would be the standard kind of opening wage. We actually just had trouble last week because for the GS4 temporary position, they was very specifically in the job announcement, but the applicants had to specifically show specialized experience for 6 months. Obviously, at the GS4 level, they aren't going to be able to qualify based on and or want that wage if they had the career or college experience. And so it was very specific, and it stated how they had to show that specialized experience for 6 months, and unless someone, they had a parent or a family member that already worked for the Forest Service, or a counselor or someone that knew how the Forest Service hiring works, they probably weren't going to get that correct on their resume. And that's not, by elaborating or like making something up on their resume. It's just being very thorough and very explanatory in showing that 6 months experience. And so the people that should be qualifying and getting those temporary positions are actually having a hard time as well.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Any comments before we move on? Yes, Cheryl.
Yeah, so where did that become difficult? Was that from the federal level? Was that our state level? And that's a shame. I mean, it really is a shame.
It is. Nope, that's, straight from the top, so that's at the highest federal level. We only have a certain amount of control over the way that we can fill and hire positions. And so, yes, it's very, very well known that that was a complete detriment and an unfortunate move to make that happen. It makes it much harder. And so, what we've done here locally is our temp hiring for the next season. So for the next season, starting in May or June, the open period for those positions will most likely be like in October. And again, completely out of our hands. And so what we've done is we basically have teams from the Forest Service representing those resource area specifics that actually go and work with the counselors at the high school and try to, help ahead of time in really for them understanding what is needed for those applications to be able to qualify just for that basic GS3 level.
Thank you. Okay.
Real quick,
Yes,
just in case, I know we don't know each other. How well do you know Chuck Sams, and how much have you ever described the situation? And does he even have a role within those types of things to be able to push or move in a different direction?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Just for me, I know that he's the person that's been at least tasked to be responsible for U.S. Forest Service, and he's from Pendleton. He's probably and he's a friend to EOU, and there's a variety of people here that know him.
Okay.
And that person could probably help with at least understanding some of the bureaucracy and seeing if some of it can change. Gary?
There's a bureaucracy with that. Park Service is much different than the Forest Service, and that's something that's very well known. And it's been a conflict for a number of years, even before Chuck became the director of the National Park Service. So.
Saying Park Service, Forest Service, I'm glad you helped me.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for your comments.
I just
Cheryl?
have one more quick
Yes.
question. So my aunt and uncle own a vacation house, a rental in Seneca, and I know every summer they have some students from OSU that come in and stay in their house while they're doing some kind of research or whatever. Is that something that would be accessible to EOU, that program, or?
I don't know anything about it. It's specifically with the Forest Service. My guess is that it's probably through a program that is not local. There could be, regional programs that are managed out of the regional office in Portland. If it was a local one, then I would probably know about that. But now that you mention it, housing is a hard situation. We have some housing that's in high demand for normally temporary workforce, and then obviously if we're talking about the natural resources temporary positions versus firefighter positions, the firefighter positions normally have a higher priority for the housing that we do have. We try to intermix it and try to be equal and as fair as possible, but housing is a big difficulty for us across the board.
Sutton, earlier you mentioned a list of trades that we're really lacking in, and do you see any way that we can bridge that gap, and any way that the university could help that? Is that something that typically a university can help with?
Yeah, I think that there is definitely an opportunity to bridge that gap. There is a significant amount of universities on the west side that do apprenticeship programs, and I know I can't speak for other mills within our community, but us in general, those positions that have 20 plus years of experience, we're going to miss the opportunity to train that into our youth if we don't start doing that now. Filing is a huge one of those positions. So kids that graduate high school that aren't really sure what they want to do, the trades is a very high-paying, demanded force. So can we partnership as far as getting an apprenticeship going with EOU so that they can receive training from people that do have those certificates so that we can continue to grow that program. I think 100+ people needing those different areas is something that's huge. We can bring them in at an entry level, so someone that's never seen a sawmill before, has never seen a planer before, doesn't know the difference between a Doug fir, a white fir, a ponderosa pine. We can grow them, we can teach them, we can continue to move them up the ladder. We see that every single day. We have a young gentleman that started with us in July, had never been in a sawmill, ever. He is now one of our head operators, and he can look at a piece of log and tell you, that's a good one, that's a bad one, this will make a 2x6, this makes a good stud. Oh, this one laid out there a little bit longer, this is why, this is a pest that have got into it. So they are being given that opportunity, but when he leaves us and goes to find a different career, if that were to ever happen, he would have 1 year of experience. He doesn't have a certificate, he doesn't have a degree, he has 1 year of work experience. Now, in that year, we can attest that he's grown millions of miles. But when you look at a resume as a HR person, and correct me if I'm wrong, Var, and you see 1 year of experience compared to someone that comes out of the school on the west side and has a certificate in an apprenticeship program, who are you going to pick? So that makes it really hard, and I think that we have an opportunity to really make that happen. And I'm more than happy to talk with anyone and get you a list of resources. We see it on the west side in Riddle as well.
So I would just say, just for LeGrand School District at least, we do have internships that we wind up doing with Wood Grain and other companies, but I'm just going to say for high school, for non-degree programs, and I don't know to the extent that EOU does any trades to that extent, if that's what you're looking. When we have a natural resources program, so we also have internships for natural resources, but that's at the high school level. And I'm just going to say, EOU definitely has internships. I don't know if it's not aligned to a degree, then those internships are harder.
Understood.
So my point is also, if you spend some time with your superintendent, there's a chance that the high school students can also do internships.
The hard part with that is OSHA has such very strict mandates. So we cannot hire a youth that is under the age of 18 due to insurance, due to the fact that a sawmill is one of the hardest life-threatening industries out there. So we, as an industry, are very limited.
We do a lot of 18-year-old and up on those.
Yeah, that would be great. Send them our way. We have 7 students currently that work for us on spring break, winter break, summer break. Their positions are held for them, and they can come back and do that and receive that training.
One thing that happens across universities nationwide is use of people with technical skills who are interested in moving into a degree earning program using applied science. And I think that could be an avenue and a partnership. And I know that our regional outreach centers are also working on lifetime credits and CTLs, which help people. And I do have a couple meetings coming up with local LeGrand workforce development folks who are also interested in moving apprenticeship programs forward. The School of Education has been most dynamic there. They've already had several lauds this afternoon. But I think it's something we can talk about, but I do agree with George. This is not typical for a university to engage in those kinds of trades. Rather, usually they work with community college partners, and then we continue to lift those students up after they complete that associate's.
Yeah, we did, and this is something we may, Rhea, maybe you and I can talk a little bit. We did a trades day this year, and every high school student participated. We had over 35 vendors. We called them vendors, but it was plumbing. Every trade was represented, from carpentry to electrical to mechanics, and we did involve like BMCC. We had a couple of schools out of Idaho. We had Wyotech here. So there's quite a bit, and I think you're right. That 4-year degree granting program really probably isn't the space this needs to be in, but maybe as we move forward we can somehow.
So I would follow up a question there, just because I think in various circles, this statistic or this, we went over it in our orientation this morning, the 40-40-20. So the panel, or is a panel, I know at least one guy up there is probably familiar with the 40-40-20. I thought so, but
It's still in the statute.
it is still a statute. But I think that being the point, so for the panel up there in rural Oregon, when you think of that as the statistic for your labor force, what does that actual statistic look like in your representative industry in terms of, so the 40-40-20, to give you a briefer, only 20% are considered in that trade space, 40% are supposed to be associates or higher, and 40% are your beyond that degrees. How does that translate into reality of what your workforce looks like?
So remember, you're going from an area that has historically been natural resource based. So that's flipped. You know, in the 60s it was, I would venture 60-20-20 on that. So we're moving, it's in flux. And as we as parents say to our kids, look, we want you to go to college, and then we also say, look, we want you to have these trade skills. Right now, Grant County is trying to feel its way out, and we don't have the economic development person, but we're trying to feel our way forward with that. And so we're seeing this huge influx of retirees, which then the trades are being demanded for construction, for homes, that piece, and our entire, not our entire, that's a bold statement. Our focus is now going to a service-oriented economy, a tourist-oriented economy versus our manufacturing and natural resources economy. So we're trying. We're moving forward, but 40-40-20, okay, sure, if we want to look at it that way, but the needs of Grant County right now really are warm bodies. It's the same thing you're seeing in Baker County. You know, how many teacher shortages did you have? How many unlicensed, emergency licensed, restricted licensed teachers did you see going into classrooms? That's us, only in a fishbowl. And I think VAR, that's a fair statement for VAR as well, although he doesn't have that latitude that we do as educators, because there's no way in hell I'm going to let a restricted licensed nurse do anything to me. So he doesn't have the latitude that we do. Anyway, just being honest. And so yeah, so I mean, we can talk pie in the sky, the 40-40-20 stuff, but where the reality is we're shifting, and we're still trying to learn that, what that looks like.
Well, and I think the follow-up question to that, because it was a bit tongue-in-cheek on the rural and 40-40-20, and it always kind of has been a bit, but so then where do you see the role of like EOU, to echo kind of what Dr. Ryan said, is there is a historic model of the place and space of a university within a system of higher ed, and so how
Absolutely.
best do those two things live in the same space, meaning what you just articulated was in rural, the 40-40-20 is a bit flipped on its head, and there's still a huge role, as you've all articulated, for EOU within that. And so what does that look like from your lens?
Education, the biggest employer, I know he'd like to say he is, but the biggest employer in Grant County is education. It's not the hospital district. It's the education enterprise. So you have education, you have the hospital district, and you have the professionals in the Forest Service. And then we have, collectively, we have other things. The trades are huge. That's a separate area from you guys. But where EOU plays a foundational role in trades is our dual credit programs for our high school kids. Because if we can get them Math 111, if we can get them whatever, get them exposed and help them to understand trades route, 4-year degree route, what do we want? That helps. So EOU could be integral to Grant County's growth.
Can I just add to this discussion a little bit? I think the statistic is probably pretty close. When I was working with EOU, for EOU, the percentage of adults with a bachelor's degree in Grant County was 17%. And so I always took that, and I think we still take that as tremendous opportunity. And President Ryan, I remember you talking about, you know, a lot of men are undereducated in rural areas nationally. And I think that's true in Grant County and in all of Eastern Oregon. I think there's tremendous opportunity there. What I used to tell students, what I experienced by seeing them, what I think is still true today, that even in Grant County, if you have a bachelor's degree, doors open for you. There is a job for you right now in Grant County. And education is a great example, but just a bachelor's degree in Grant County opens doors for students. And I think we have that story to tell. We have the ability to deliver that degree to students who are living here, doing, maybe working at Prairie Wood Products, who maybe have aspirations to someday work in the office with Sutton, maybe as her boss. Maybe she wants to do this. Anyway, by the way, yeah, that might be a good discussion to have. So I think there's tremendous opportunity for EOU to support the entire economy, and not just here in Grant County, but all of Eastern Oregon.
So I just want to editorialize. I grew up in Southwest Oregon, Ground Central for Spotted Owl, and went away to college. Southern California, UCLA, couldn't get far enough away from Southern Oregon, and it couldn't be more different. But I remember the heartbreaking stories. I think Josephine County has one lumber mill, and your sister agency in Douglas County has, is it Glendale? One of my child best friends still works at the lumber mill in Douglas County. I'm so impressed that you have it. I just need to acknowledge that on a personal and professional note. That's really super impressive. I wish the only wish is that your panel had your county economic development person. I also just wanted to say that I'm aware that Harney County has a lot of your same issues, so it's probably obvious to you, those, particularly the need for trades, which is typically community college or a union effort. I think you could go a long way partnering with them. South Morrow County has we're just right over here next to your border. We have the same issue. So there might be some synergy in partnering with the really, really rural, not just the rest of us is rural.
I will say too, we are primarily a trades market, and that is accurate, but we do have human resources, forestry. So the Forest Service is very retirement friendly. That looks very good on paper. So these new applicants that come out and you say, you want to come do forestry for the lumber mill? Are we accessing that? Are we resourcing that as far as using that degree for, that? Do those people want to be in an office all day dealing with that side of things? Most of the time not. We run into that now. The other side of that is housing, which we touched base on. So you do get new graduates that are very interested, and they come to Grant County and they say, well, I can rent a condo in Bend for pretty close to the same amount, and look at all these things that I can do, and I have Walmart and Target, and we have Dollar General is a new thing to us, and we're very thankful for that. But, I mean, we do have those positions where the university could help support some of that. Human resources is a huge one of those. Accounting is another huge one of those. Forestry is a huge one of those. Even we've looked at the medical side of things, having somebody on staff, we've talked about sawmills being very dangerous, having somebody on staff when you cut your finger off that's right there, because you do have 13 miles between here and John Day, and sometimes that is the difference. It really is. And so I do think that, yes, our focus on employment, because that's what makes us grow, that's what makes us successful as trades. The guys at the bottom are what pays our bills at the top, and we get that wholeheartedly. But we could also benefit from more opportunities for a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree without having to have those guys live, because maybe we do have someone in our sawmill that is a green chain puller that's interested in being our forestry guy. can he accomplish that from being here in Grant County where he's already set?
Not to be a commercial, but the good news is you can do a lot of that online right now,
Yeah.
right here at
Yes.
EOU.
Yes.
There's an accounting degree waiting for you, as well as our Master's of Business Administration and our business degree, all available online.
Exactly.
All right, any other comments here on this topic? Well, I have a question for Robert Waltenberg. You know, talking about the presence that EOU has in our community and starting with the young level there, it was one of my favorite things to go on a field trip to EOU, go to the, what was it, the math bowl or the math quiz. Are there a lot of things, to your knowledge, that that's going on within our districts here in Grant County?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Logan, there are. Every year, we take, typically each school will arrange and take their juniors and seniors on college visitations. EOU is always on that list for every school, and then they'll try to do a swing through Central Oregon. And that's where your competition really lies, is Central Oregon, because you now have OSU Cascades spinning up. You have Central Oregon Community College. It's attractive, it's bend, it's hip, it's cool. So yes, we do. And then we had Eastern Promise taking place, and I think that has kind of backed off a little bit. But you're granting credit to these kids for a college prep class, basically, 3 credits. You have your Oregon Teacher Pathways that takes kids onto campus. Any kid that is interested in becoming a teacher or becoming something in education, they're able to experience that. One thing I will just say kudos to is that program, your Oregon Teacher Pathways class, most universities will accept that as a ethnic studies class, and thank you. That's huge. So there are those, and then we do things like, for example, 2 years ago we host the YTP program out of the ESD, the Youth Transition Program. Kids who are typically underserved, kids who are typically, and George is shaking his head, nodding his head, kids that typically don't see themselves in a college-bound world. 2 years ago, we'd load them all up in a bus and brought them up there, and you had a couple of ambassadors. We split them into 2 groups. You were doing your fair, a student union fair of some sort. Our kids ate it up. We also, at the same time, we spent half a day at Eastern. We also spent a half a day at Barretto for the trade side, showing these kids what could happen. So yeah, we do get kids out and about, and that's huge.
Thank you.
And I will say, just this last year, I helped coordinate Dayville going to the Discover Your Future Day with admissions. Long Creek went and enjoyed the climbing wall with their kids. It was actually all of their school as a reward for attendance, so he arranged for that. So there are definitely opportunities. FBLA, those examples. People are getting up on campus.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I think Girls in Science is another really popular, wonderful program too. So any students that are, and I don't know, did they extend that beyond Girls in Science now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, that was outdated when I said girls. Sorry.
My daughter did that, so you're good.
Sorry.
Yeah, we opened up, so we used to hold the girls in for 20 years. It was grade 6 through 8th, and then this past year, considering that there's so many male students are not considering going to college, we decided to open it up to all genders. So we call it now Investigators of Science, and that's coming up in early November. So that would be wonderful if you could take, that would be more middle school age children, but it would be awesome to bring a contingent.
I'm going to ask you all just kind of a weird question, but go with me for a second. I used to work in Morrow County. I worked there for 7 years, and most of Morrow County had the teachers and the administrators went to school at Eastern Oregon University. In La Grande, I would say probably 70%, 80% of our teachers, of our staff, have gone to Eastern Oregon University or graduated from Eastern Oregon. I'm going to say it's probably somewhere in here, that 70 to 80% maybe of your graduates are Eastern Oregon University graduates. Accurate or not accurate? And then the other part to that is the vibe I received whether I was in Morrow County or La Grande or any Eastern Oregon place likely is like, has Eastern Oregon cared about us, or has Eastern Oregon done things for us? So let that go where it goes. Graduates of Eastern Oregon University for your workforce, and then also, do you feel that EOU does enough for your community or for your region? And it sounds like on the academic side, education side, we do a lot.
I do not have one person out of 57 employees that has graduated from EOU.
One. Oh, Maggie Justice. No, she didn't.
No, she didn't graduate from EOU. I don't have one.
Her sister's attending EOU.
Yeah.
So on the healthcare side, I would say that that number is definitely lower for the hospital district. We either have the entry levels that we're instructing ourselves, or we have the specialty positions that we're having to recruit from outside of the area. And we do get a lot of people come back. You know, sometimes they'll take their first job in Boise and they went to BSU and they stick around there and then realize that they're tired of the traffic and the need for home comes back and they return. But we don't have, just because of what the needs that we have, and it's a diverse, group that we have to have in a critical access hospital. And yeah, so I'd say it's very difficult for to get those degrees. There may be undergraduates that I'm not aware of, that they've gone, gotten their 4-year and then gone to a specialty. But yeah, that's my experience.
I think probably 10 years ago, George, that would have been a fair statement. I don't know that that's a fair statement now. I think that as our workforce turns over in education, I think that we used to see a lot of EOU graduates, coming in. I think now we see not so many. I think we see at that 4-year level. At the master's level, I would say, yeah, half, because EOU it's our closest and it's our university. And so the MAT or the MTE for you older farts out there. Doctor, no, absolutely not. But again, I think that's a space that that EOU is trying to be in, competing against Western Governors and against Grand Canyon and against Phoenix University or University of Phoenix or Concordia. I think that we're a little bit behind there.
It's funny. Listening to you, I was thinking about how in the beginning you talked about relationships, right? And that in rural communities, relationships matter. And I sit here and I'm both saddened and puzzled, but also I want to dream, right? And you mentioned Grand Canyon and New Hampshire and Western Governors. And I think about those as kind of like your big Amazons and your Walmarts. And for me, a relationship-driven education is what EOU does best, right? But when you get someone who's willing to offer it to you in any way you desire, and they have a nationwide network and marketing dollars that are $300 million, and we are your community institution. And I know we've asked a lot of you today about how we can serve you, and it's clear we will and need to do more. you know, I almost just feel at this point I want to ask you to help us build those relationships and to be that relationship-driven regional institution where your folks stay right where they are.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right, Dr. Ryan. If I look back, and I've been at the ESD for 25 years, and I spend a lot of time at the ESD, and I remember some of our most successful teaching cohorts were those cohorts where those teachers had to come into the ESD, and they were in there Monday nights and Wednesday nights, or Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, and they were in there on Saturdays, and they were a cohort. They were a true, honest, face-to-face cohort. It wasn't a write a comment on the blackboard so I can say you were here on the computer blackboard. You know, those types of interactions. And so as we build those relationships, and what we're doing, what we're seeing regionally, is that we're trying to do that. We're trying to pair up our more veteran teachers with maybe a classified aide that wants to become a teacher. And so we're moving them forward, and we're seeing that building as well as that facilitation that takes place by EOU. So yeah, it's a little saddening. It is, but I think it's the world that people live in now, unfortunately.
Logan. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of add to that conversation. When I graduated, or when I graduated high school and went to EOU, and I knew since I was a fourth grader I was going to be a teacher, and so at that point in time, Eastern Oregon University, only it was Eastern Oregon College, was known to be the teacher college, and it was just known. If you wanted to be a teacher and you went to EOU, you were pretty much guaranteed a job if you had any. Well, now we have a lot of competition in that area, so I agree with Dr. Ryan. Because we have so much competition now, we have to build on that relationship piece of it and outbeat our competition with that aspect of it. So I think anytime we can get you to help us with that message, that's going to be advantageous to the people that you know that want to go to school and to us as a university, because we are battling competitions just like with the online. When we were so well known online, we were kind of the leaders because we were kind of the forefront of it. Now there's competition everywhere, and so that plays into it. But like Dr. Ryan said, if we can keep that message going that we build relationships, it's a place to go. And just like Var's son could not get that successful place where he is now if he had not come to EOU and experienced those relationships there. So help us to get that message across, and I think we'll all benefit from it.
I just wanted to put one more plug in for partnerships in the future, and say I really think that there's a great opportunity for you as a university when you're looking where is our next adventure, next opportunity we're gonna move toward, is to look at for healthcare, to look at your surrounding partner hospitals, because I think you'd find we're all in the same boat, and we would all be on board to take on the clinical side of that. And I believe that there's universities in other parts of the state that are doing that, and maybe it's a phone call and we can figure out how they're doing it, because you look at the investment, and this is me, I don't understand all of what's involved, but I'm thinking, we have the expensive equipment, right? If you're looking at radiology, we have the CT and the X-ray, we have MRI, we have 3D mammography, we have all of those things that would be great to expose. We have the ability to take on a small group, but if you look at all of those hospitals, you combine Burns and Hepner and Lakeview and Enterprise and, all of those together, we could form a pretty good team and make something good happen. So.
That sounds awesome. One of the things I want to share with you is the political culture of higher education, and it needs folks like you for EOU to actually move into those fields, which are claimed currently by other Oregon universities. And so we would need, probably using our demarker as the rural institution, to be able to do that, to say you want your rural serving institution to help you build up your medical expertise in these various fields. And so, I think that could be a future direction, but truly we would need the advocacy of folks like you and our local hospitals.
Okay, and Lisa, first of all, are there any other comments on this topic here? I was going to ask Lisa, actually, if have you noticed there being fewer EOU graduates within the Forest Service at Malheur National Forest? I mean, when I was working there, 10, 15 years ago, it seems like that's all of my buddies were from school. Were coming back, and we were doing the STEP program. We were doing that, and going on to make that full-time careers. And you're just not seeing as much of that?
No. Nope. It's really all over the board. I would say less and less EOU graduates, probably each time that we go through a hiring phase, honestly. I don't necessarily always see to that in-depth of the hiring paperwork, but, and I think part of it is because of all of the natural resources requirements for all of those other positions, they can't get everything there. That doesn't mean that they didn't go to EOU at one point in their college career, but definitely probably were not able to graduate from there with what they needed for that specific position that they were working in. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for answering that. Well, I'm looking at the clock here. We just have a few minutes left. Reaching out to our trustees, to the audience, are there any questions that you have that we want to bring forward to the panel? I can run the mic back there if you're not mic'd up. And yes, trustee.
Just one thing that I wanted to bring to the table is we're talking about working with you more, and one thing that comes to my mind, or that I would like to see more with our community outreach, is on all of our public board meetings and all of our committee meetings, we have places for public comment. And unfortunately, we very rarely have public comment put in for those. And that is something that I personally would like to see change over time. We talk about a lot of these topics, different degrees that we hope are going to help you out and your communities. Having some of those voices there, or having that engagement in those forums would be very helpful.
Anyone else?
Oh, I'll just note that part of our process now is we do, our meetings are available for live stream, but we also take public comment remotely. So we're sitting in the boardroom on the campus at EOU. A person at home in John Day can provide public comment at that meeting.
Panel, do you see that as something that you could do later?
Well, we're getting a resounding silence right now, and that's a little disturbing too.
Yeah, I would love to accept anything that you find people have to say. That's just something I've wanted to see really grow at our university and on our board. We had the wonderful time of engaging with other like-minded individuals in Morrow County last year, but I personally, as I've been here on the board, don't see some of the fruition from some of these conversations, these wonderful conversations we have at these retreats. I would like to see continuance as the year goes, and that takes us engaging with you, but also our community members, those that we support, engaging with us in those in that public comment, especially now that it's online. That helps us a lot in actually knowing if we're serving you or just making decisions that it might be missing the mark. So we really need your support there, and I know that I would appreciate it, and I'm sure others on this board would too.
I think for me, just from a process standpoint or a system standpoint or a structure standpoint, I've been enough, I mean, I worked in Ontario, I've worked in Morrow County, I've worked in LeGrand, and hard to get student teachers to come to Ontario, hard to get student teachers to come to Morrow County. And same thing, I mean, OHSU in LeGrand and sending students or sending nurses to go out and have different experiences. The more that we have things that are in LeGrand, people just don't want to drive a lot. So the more we have hybrid structures or hybrid and online structures where they could be at home, and then if they did something for a little bit in LeGrand on the weekend, but the reality is they were able to do it at your job site, at your work site, and they felt that they could eat, sleep, and breathe EOU at home. That's the kind of systems that we really need to build, the kind of infrastructure that we need to support. I just know, being in from the outside, and I'll just say in the inside now, living in LeGrand, you often see once students are there, they're like, I don't want to do all this driving. It's hard, you know, it's winter, this, and it becomes that. So we've got to build things where the ships or the centers or the locations are also at your place. And that's more for our staff. And I'm sure you guys know that, but just making sure that that's very strong or a strength.
Yes, Bart.
Go ahead. So I appreciate that, and I also wanted to just maybe say you've heard a lot of asks, but there's also a lot of thank yous that need to go your way too. We definitely appreciate having a local university partner, and the fact that you're here says a lot. And so that's a neat thing for me to see, and this is an introduction to me of possibilities, and so I'm hoping that continues on. And I think I really think it needs to be all levels. So I was talking to Cheryl about my son. He got so much more from being on campus than he would have through staying at home and doing an online program. And these students have they all have different views of what makes a successful program. And I think as far as what I've seen from Isaac, our son, is you do a phenomenal job of recognizing those and working and being flexible. And so thank you.
Trustee Valeria.
Thank you. Thank you to the panel, by the way. Very insightful. What you share is challenging, because many of these things are known to all of us, and yet it's frustrating because the solutions are not immediate or as fast as we like to see them. One reflection that I have is, and we sit here with the EOU brand in the middle of this conversation, and at the same time, community colleges in our region are suffering greatly in different ways. And so I wonder if the solution or the direction that could be provided is a little bit of the shift from a brand or institutions that we need to help to a shift to a student-centered idea. And EOU and different colleges is what is in their mind when they look at the future, at the crystal ball, and they said, what should I do to have something successful? Our job collectively is to provide that, in my opinion, and kind of fast also, a student-centered solution to that. They are asking things that our institutions are not yet ready to provide for many different reasons. We're trying, we're doing better, we're providing something new, we're changing, but we're not shifting yet. The world 4 years ago was a different world. Few things happen all the time, whether it's a big war, a big virus, a big something. And by definition, the walls are stiff. And you can add a room, but it's hard to remodel, to knock down the building and reinvent something. So in my opinion, and we are doing already something at EOU that calls for that, a student, we call it success, but I like to go a step forward to say a student-centered approach. what would I like to see if I were 18 years old and I look at this thing that we call higher education? To learn, to be successful, to provide for a future family, for myself, that is satisfactory and inspiring. So I think that we need to definitely continue to deepen the collaborative approach with other institutions. Alone we sink and together we will float. If we strengthen those bonds and those mechanisms today, they're keeping us a little bit scattered still. We still have challenges for students to transfer. They start one place and they have a hard time going to the next place, locally and generally. So a student-centered approach, and thank you for mentioning relationship. This is what, leverages all the things we do in the rural community. We love to live here because we love to know our neighbors. And we like to throw lots of parties and to feel that sense of community. Thank you, panelists, for sharing.
Thank you, Logan. Anything else you'd like to add? You have such a radio voice. It's beautiful.
That's enough for me. I've really enjoyed this discussion. I feel like it was fruitful, and I am honored to be your moderator for today, and I'll take this conversation back with my people, and I talk with members of our community every day on my show, and so thank you for this opportunity, and I suppose this is my out to close this off, and so I'll go ahead and set the mic down. And
well, thank you very much. You've done an excellent job, and so every day we expect to hear EOU subliminally
oh, there's something
interjected.
in there. Oh, yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Well, thank you, panel. Wow, just very good. And to our new board members, please don't be depressed. This has been excellent, just very, very good. Thank you so much, all of you. And be sure and keep us in the communication lines, and we'll help you, you help us, and we'll all be stronger for it. So thank you again. We really have appreciated the conversation. So thank you. So we're going to take a brief break. Before we do, in order to set up our golfing teams, I need to know who is a pro golfer, because we need to make sure we have a good golfer on each of the teams that we have. So as you take a break, would you swing by Chris and I and let us know if you're an amateur, I've never done it before, or I'm really great. Okay. Thank you. Pepper is handing out the results of our board survey, and then I handed out some comments on it, and we're going to do this really fast because you can read. But a very good board survey, I thought, pretty accurate, I would say, from what I was reading. And because we're running late, I'll just let you read the comments that I kind of spent forever putting together. But anyway, some good points, a few things that we need to work on. I think what I'll let you do is read through the comments, read through the survey. It takes a little while, so we're not going to try to do it right now, but and then maybe if you have some particular concerns, questions, comments after you've read through it, please email me and we can carry that to another level at the next meeting if possible. So it's good bedtime reading, and and then you can digest it and then give us comments on that. Yes, please, yeah. Yeah, you can keep that one. That's right, we did decide, Pepper and I talked about turning them back. So how about if you take them home, please don't share them, but take them home so that you have time to read them, and then at the next meeting I'll just collect them again. So I think that pretty much concludes. If we don't get to our golfing appointment, we probably won't have enough time. Hopefully the lightning doesn't strike, and if it does, we've got some doctors on board that know how to give some CPR. So
They'll be the ones who get hit.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That's a lawyer talk.
Yeah. So is there anyone that is an accomplished golfer that did not see me about that? Because I do need to know. So far, and like I told Chuck, judging from the responses from people, even though he said he's so, I said, you're pro, considering what I'm looking at. So I have George and Chuck and Gary and Brad that all are somewhat accomplished golfers. So that helps me. Is there anyone else that's a pretty darn good golfer? Christine, do you golf? Oh, okay. I thought maybe since you, okay, yeah, okay.
Got me beat.
Okay, so with that, what our afternoon looks like is golfing, and then a reception at the clubhouse, and then dinner down at, is it the 1188? Christine, am I saying that right? Yes. Okay. And so we'll have dinner down there. We will be going past the motel, I never say it right, but past the motel on the way to the golf course. So if anybody wants to run in and change clothes or whatever, get different shoes, you're welcome to do that. So we will meet everybody up at the golf course and play some golf. Yay. Great. Any questions? Okay,